What's up, everybody? Do you sometimes doubt yourself? Are you maybe your own worst critic? Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we're talking about how to trust your own judgment. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's up, Danny?
What's up, Randy? I didn't even think of that was the when you just said, your own worst critic. I forgot about trusting your judgment in that sense too, because that's a
Mhm.
tough one.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I've been like this past few weeks, I don't even know, maybe even months, I've been like super hypercritical on myself recently. So this is definitely something we need to talk about. But actually, I got the idea because the other day I was listening to one of our old episodes and I was blown away with I was like, wow, we give some really good advice. Like, holy
Yeah,
moly, like, whoa, we
I
know what we're
know.
talking about. And then I'm sitting with myself and I'm like, how come I can't give myself that advice? And I'm like, I'm the same person. What am I doing? You know? It's, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. No, I think about that a lot because I listen to past ones actually quite often. And I'm like, it is funny that I know, I know these things, but application is very hard. And it's like a work in progress. I mean, at least I feel better when I think back to like the Marcus Aurelius and all those guys because they were struggling. They realized it was a struggle the whole life to try and be better. You just keep trying, and like you're gonna fail a lot, and like it's hard. I think it's so hard sometimes to like remember what you need to remember in the moment. That is the problem. It's like when it's happening, it's very easy to forget all the information you have, all the good ideas, all the like skills and tools you have. They just go right out the window
Mm-hmm.
and you lose it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that happens to me so often. There's like a certain time of night where I just become cranky and I lose all like any like helpful thing I've ever learned in my entire life. It all goes out the window. And it's just like
Yeah.
everything is a calamity from that moment on. And it's just like, you know what? I just need to go to sleep earlier. I think that's what I need to do. But it's crazy because like you said, during those times when you most need it, it's like that's when it's not there. It's almost like I remember there was a saying where you don't it's something along the lines of where you fail to the level of your training. uh
Mm.
it's almost like you need to train yourself to have these things handy in those situations. Like for instance, I know me, I get like cranky and then I go down this rabbit hole of really bad thoughts
Yeah.
late at night, so like I need to start training what to do when that happens because I know it's going to happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing happens to me actually at night. It is funny. When I get tired, it's like the worst time. I'm like, I'm a failure. Everything's gonna fall apart. I can't do this. And then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I'm okay. It'll
I
be fine.
know. I
I
know.
slept.
I wake up in the morning. I wake up in the morning and I feel like I was drunk the night before, even though I haven't been
Yeah.
drinking. Like it's crazy.
Because it's like equivalent though when you're really tired. And I think part of it too is like when you're really busy, like you are really exhausted and mentally lack like, if you're like learning stuff all day and doing like complex problems and stuff all day, mentally you just don't have the energy anymore to deal with anything. So it just gets like, but it's funny that you just transition into negativity like immediately. It's so weird. I know. And it is funny too, because I think it's a constant reminder that like none of this stuff is like easy to fix. It's stuff that you have to constantly work on. It's not stuff that like just is like you do a 2 week thing and you're good. You're never gonna have that problem again because you are. And you're gonna keep having it. And you just the thing is to just keep working on it so that it gets easier and easier to deal with. I think that's like kind of,
Yeah. Dude, our thoughts are literally the end of us. Like
yeah,
we
they are.
it's like nothing's in the grand scheme of things, nothing's wrong. Like everything's the best it's ever been. And yet our thoughts are just like, this is terrible. It's all gonna come crashing down. Like I remember there
It is
in
funny.
in this book, Loving What Is, she talks about how she went to the hospital from someone who was dying, and like this one of their legs was a lot bigger than the other one. And she goes to the hospital, and the person was like, "Ah, I'm pissed. Can't you see the problem?" And she's like, "No, I don't see a problem." And the person like lifts up the blanket, and they're like, "Look at this, like compared to that, like, can't you see the problem?" And she's like, "Oh, I see the problem now. You're suffering from the thought that your legs should be the same size. I see."
I see, you're confused.
I know. Oh, I see. You're suffering because you're arguing with reality.
Yeah, why is it is funny. Why we it's like we form these expectations that things should be this normal way when reality is just whatever it is. It is funny too, like it just is what it is. I don't know why we have such a hard time just accepting that,
Dude, and all
but
the
like
pain and
none of us do.
suffering, all the pain and
Yeah.
suffering that we have in our life comes from arguing with reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And making it more than it is too, or making it out to be more than it is, like making things matter more than they actually matter, or you know, it's like we get this like tunnel vision, and then it's just like everything's gone. And I
Yeah.
think I think that is why like they're like forcing yourself to acknowledge how you feel does help. At least it helps me because like it's like a reminder, like, oh, you have ways of dealing with this, idiot. Just stop doing what you're doing and take a step back. Like it's almost like you need to like stop yourself from
Mhm.
letting your imagination go and take yourself out of the moment and then like kind of regroup. But it is so hard to do. It's like getting angry in the car, right? You can be driving totally fine and you just blow up because somebody does something stupid. And it's like, I didn't need to do that. It doesn't help anything. It doesn't make my life better. It's just,
Since when has anger ever made anything better?
no, it
I
doesn't.
love
Like,
that.
it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but it's being able to catch those thoughts, and that's something that you have to practice because they come so fast and they seem so real, and
yeah,
it's just a thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny too? It's like I was thinking about this the other day because I'm teaching ethics and like everybody thinks they're a good person, right? No one, or I would say very few people, if any, actively think that they're bad people or like horrible people. I mean, we all like at least okay, right? And it's funny because like, but it's something you can work on forever. So it's like it's there. The ideal is like perfect. You can't hit it. So it's
Mm.
funny that we all think we're at the upper tier of that level. And like, especially like college kids, I mean, how old are they in college? Like 18, 19, 20? And they're like, I'm good. Like, it's like, are you though? Do you, really? Like, it's
Mm.
just, I think we have these like perceptions of ourselves, expectations, we, and we have like we have like tunnel vision almost all the time. I think it's very hard to see beyond our little world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since our vision is that limited, how can we trust our own judgment?
Yeah, I don't know. It gets hard, right?
It's like,
Well,
it's
I
like
think,
okay, so
okay.
I
Yeah.
was sitting listening to an old episode, and I was listening to what we were saying, and I was like, damn, that is so insightful. And I was just like, I need that right now. Where is that? So it's like, how do
Where'd
you
it go?
it's like how do you just learn to trust yourself?
Well, I think part of it is you got to get it right, right? You got to, and that's the scary thing too, because we constantly aren't sure if we have it right, and that causes problems. So I think a lot of it is practice and recognizing that like we are good at doing these things. Like we're good at solving problems. We do usually know somewhere what to do, whether we listen to it or not. Like most of us, I think, have a pretty good sense intellectually what we should be doing most of the time. Whether we do it or not is totally a different story. And I think it's like kind of like merging those two because, we're only a little bit rational. I think our emotions are way stronger. I mean, think about it. Like, you know, social media and stuff, they want to get you emotionally riled up because that's what's going to keep you focused, not your reasoning, not thinking about things, not critically thinking. That's not going to keep you engaged that way. So it's like we have our emotions, we have how we feel right now, like it's that sense of like whether we feel discomfort or comfort and all that. I think we have to kind of like practice getting our rational side to kind of step up and recognize that we do know how to handle it, and that usually if we just deal with it, it's better.
Hmm.
But it's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I noticed that like when I actually do listen to myself, not when I listen to like the pleasure seeking part or the greedy part, but like when I listen to
Yeah.
that still small voice inside of me that like tells me to go after something, it's always been right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
It's
one that
actually
tells me to
pretty
go
funny.
after the instantaneous pleasures, that one's usually wrong.
Yeah. Almost always.
Yeah.
It is funny though.
Hmm.
You know, it's funny too. Like I remember like when I didn't want to do all my student loans, right? Like I didn't want to even open the mail, you know? And like I hate bureaucratic like stuff. Like, oh, if you want to do this, we gotta go on and fill out 17 applications and do all this. Like I hate that stuff. It's just tedious. No one likes it. And like I still find it hard to this day sometimes to get myself to do those things. Even when I know it's gonna make the situation better fast, like right then, they'll just solve it, you know? But it's like just because like the stupid process of filling out the paperwork and stuff is like gets in the way. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like yet I know. And so it's like it is. It's like constantly like you have to constantly remind yourself and it's hard. And it's so easy because it's so much easier just to let yourself go, wander around and do things and make things worse. You know, it's like in a certain sense it's easier because like right now in the moment you're comfortable. It's
Mm.
who said that? Like you should do the hard thing first. I forget
Mm.
who the
I
hell
think
said
a
that.
lot of
Somebody said
people.
that.
Yeah.
A lot of people have, yeah.
Hmm.
But it's true though, because you do the hard thing first and things are just better in the future, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, like one thing that I noticed that we said in one of the older videos was like when you feel like you need to do something now, just stop and don't do anything. Like because especially if you're in a bad mood, because it's like it's never the
Yeah.
time when you're gonna make a good impact in your life. But it's like that's the time when we feel like we need to change something because we're in so much pain. And I was like, man, that is so right and so hard at the same time just to kind of sit in it.
Well, think too, like, times like, I can think of times like where I've gotten jealous or something, right? And like let that lead me. And it's like, even though I actually know, like deep down that it's probably wrong. Like the impulse, the feeling is probably wrong, yet we still let it lead us. And it just causes more problems, stress, anger, frustration. You know what I mean? Like you get your blood riled up, all this other crap that's not healthy and good for you. And it's like, it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So let's see how to trust yourself. I think you have to be quiet. Like I notice that the times when I'm quiet every day, deep wisdom comes up. Like things
Occasionally.
because when I'm busy doing others, when I'm playing games on my phone, deep wisdom never comes up. When I'm
Now you're
reading a
distracting
book,
yourself.
deep wisdom rarely ever comes up. When I'm busy doing work or watching a movie, deep wisdom doesn't come up. But like when I'm actually taking those times to be quiet, like that's when it actually percolates up and kind of comes.
Well, it's funny. We convince ourselves that like life is about these like momentary things that we're doing. That's what matters when we're doing them. But we forget too that there is that higher level of like, intention, action, self-direction that like operates as well. And I think it's easy to distract ourselves and just forget all of that, like at times. Like you said, like when you're doing work, like you're focused on that problem of work. You're not thinking about all the other stuff, right? Or you're not like engaged in that higher level of like what's good for you now or what's right now. And it's like we mentioned earlier, like we were talking earlier, like it's easy like at night to like get stressed out and upset because you're tired and stuff and like start to get negative when there's no reason for it, right? There isn't, but it's so easy because you're tired and mentally you don't have that capacity, right? It's like, it
Yeah.
happens.
And I just need to When you were saying that, did you mean that like we're all part of something bigger? Like we're all parts of stardust that's been reassembled and we're all just part of this big like cosmic joke that's going on? Or did you mean
No,
something
but
different
that's
by
good
that?
too. No, that works as well. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's like putting in the larger context. I meant to like just like that, it's so easy to distract ourselves every day with these little things and forget the larger, like the fact that like we're usually like it's easy to distract ourselves and like kind of lead ourselves down the wrong path and forget that we can direct ourselves, that we can also like we can think beyond this moment. You know what I mean? But you're
Oh
also
my
right too. I
gosh.
think that other side of reminding ourselves that we're also not that important
Hmm.
and that this is just a moment is also important because it also puts things in that perspective and context.
Yeah, we're infinitely important because we're the missing piece that's necessary to connect what was with what is, you know?
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. That's nice too. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's kind of funny because I recently was getting like really, really uh claustrophobic. Oh, the feeling was like claustrophobic of just having to do the same thing every single day and not feeling like it was
Uh,
making any
yeah,
difference. Like I
yeah.
just feel I like I physically felt like my body was just like almost suffocated because I would wake up every day and I would do the same morning routine and I would go to the same office and I would do the same work and then I would go to the gym and like literally every day was the same exact day. And then I sat down and I was looking at it. I was like, hang on, let's take a look at the stuff that I've accomplished in the past 2 years. And I was like, whoa, oh my goodness, I did all that stuff. And then it's like, okay, this routine that I have that's boring, that's like boring my pants off right now. Where is this getting me? And it's like, oh, that's getting me there. Oh, that's the stuff that I really want to do. And so it's like so hard because it's like the stuff that I really want. In order to get that, I have to do this stuff that's right now uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant, right? It's like you gotta recognize that, and I think it's a good example because it is like it's, dude, it's hard when you're in the moment to like see that all the time, right? And I think like I do think one way you have to trust our own judgment, we have to prove to ourselves that our judgment is trustworthy. You have to
Mm.
like you have to practice listening to it, and you have to practice showing yourself that it is right and that like it is better to trust that rather than your impulses or rather than your emotions or rather than just denying everything and distracting yourself and running away from problems. Like it's better just to trust that judgment. And like it is hard though, because like you have to constantly reinforce it, I think, too, to like get to that point where it's easy to accept it.
Ooh. And you have to listen to your judgment too, which is
Yeah,
oftentimes a
well
hard part.
that's the other problem.
Yeah, because it'll come up and then you'll be like, nah. And it'll come up and you'll
Yeah.
be like, nah. And yeah, you have to listen to it. Ooh, jeez. We're
Yeah,
touching on some
I
stuff.
was Yeah, I was working. I was just midweek. I was last week. I was working on learning our stuff for the boot camp, and I was like, I'm never gonna learn all this. It's too much. I can't do it. Meh. And then like I stopped myself, and I was like, whoa, wait, like, because like 5 months ago, I wouldn't have understood any of this. Like, and I understand it pretty well, and I can go through the documentation to solve problems bad. You know what I mean? Like, so clearly, I can and I am. So that's just a stupid thing that I'm thinking that I should ignore, you know?
Oh
Like,
my gosh, yeah. I'm in the same boat there. I do that every
yeah,
day.
yeah,
I'm like, I'm never gonna get this. Where?
yeah, yeah. Like I just expect it's funny because I expect to just sit down and just everything be right
Right?
and perfect and all. But like that's obviously not the case. I mean, watching other people do it, they make mistakes. Even people have been doing this for,
Yeah.
because it's just, it's specific and it has to be exactly right and all. It's just the nature of it. So
The nature of the
yeah,
beast. Yeah.
yeah, it is a pain in
Crazy.
the ass though.
Yeah. So I guess why should people trust their judgment?
I think personally, I think most people do know what they need to do. I think deep down they actually do know. I think most of us, like I said it before, I think like intellectually we all know what we should be doing, whether we actually do it or not. And that's why we have to kind of listen to that part of us. And I guess I should say like our rational judgment, right? Like our reason, not our emotions and stuff like that. Because like emotion, like I always think of emotions more as like they're like your fight or fight response. They're like protective, but they're not gonna like they're good in a moment sometimes because they can be helpful and they're healthy to like experience in a good positive way, but they're not like gonna help you direct your life, make good choices always or anything like that. They're more like a flight or fight, right? They're protecting you. You need reason to
Yeah.
step in, and I think we just have to start listening to that side of ourselves and reinforce it and recognize that it's there and we probably do have the right answers.
Yeah, I like what you said there where most of us know the answer because I would wager that a good majority of our problems and stresses and worries come from knowing what we should do and not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And then feeling stupid and worse afterwards because you didn't do it. Like, yeah,
Oh
you
my
make it
gosh.
worse.
Yeah.
But that's what I meant. I think that's where like reinforcing and proving to ourselves that we do know is helpful because once we start showing ourselves, like once you start listening and force yourself to listen too and be like, oh my God, like it is better when I listen to my own judgment, right? Like it is better. And so once you reinforce that enough, it gets a little easier. It doesn't get perfect, obviously, because
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
but I feel like it gets better over time. I feel like I've gotten better at it. And I think the more you do it too, the easier it is to start seeing how it impacts your life in a positive way by being more intentional and having more control over what's going on. Because I feel like whenever I don't listen to my own judgment, I feel like things are just out of control. Do you know what
Mhm.
I mean? And that's where you get into like that spiral. with the downward spiral, right? Of like just, things get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe even like looking back over your history on times when you were insightful or wise or
Yeah.
you had good judgment. Because there's also that saying that what is it? Judgment, good judgment comes from bad judgment, and bad judgment comes from
Yeah, we
experience. I don't
learn,
know,
right?
something like that. But yeah.
Yeah. And we learn it from mistakes, right? We get better over time. Like, that you're right though. You can look back at your past and you can find examples of when you did the wrong thing or you knew the right thing to do and did it. And those can both be reinforcing
Mm,
for why you should trust your judgment now, right?
hmm
Like, and I think I think too, once you start listening to it though, and think you start living more intentionally and have more agency, like it just things get progressively better too. It like snowballs, and it does get easier. Not perfect, but it does get easier.
yeah,
Because
because
I
you
think I
also
mean
have
I've gotten, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
because you also have more
I was gonna,
confidence in yourself. Like when you
yeah, yeah,
when you can trust your judgment, then you're just confident in yourself because you know no matter what comes, you'll just be okay.
yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean too, like I think it's also good to trust it too. It's like you also realize that when mistakes happen, stuff they just pass by. It's not that important. Like because a lot of it is so emotional. It's like getting caught up in like these things that really don't matter, pretending like they matter a ton, or pretending like, like if I don't get the PS5, everything's gonna be ruined, yeah, or something
Hmm
like that. And like, you get caught up in like this like consumerist culture and like this idea we need things, right, to be happy.
Uh, yeah, it's like that.
That too.
It's like from the Tao Te Ching. When you live in the Tao, if you seek, you will find, and if you make a
Yeah,
mistake, you are forgiven. Oh,
man.
okay.
What did they say that? Oh, I cannot remember the saying now about mistakes. And they said like I think it's in the Tao Te Ching. They say the master, makes mistakes
Oh,
and blames no one.
here's what it
That's what
is.
it is. Yeah,
So the
yeah,
novice makes mistakes and blames someone else. The person who's a little bit further up the path makes mistakes and blames himself, but the master makes mistakes and blames no one.
yeah. Which is true. It's like
Yeah, because who
it
knows? Who
happens.
knows if it was actually the master making the mistake?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like many
Could have been
times
so.
we think that we have so much control. Like there's no way to prove that we actually are doing anything in this world. Like it could all be
Yeah.
being done to us.
Oh, dude, free will. Yeah, it could all be. It could all. You know, I mean, think about like what you're wearing that day, right? Like you think you chose your outfit, but it could have just been the weather, the laundry you did or didn't do, who you're going to see, all these other factors dictating what you're wearing. You didn't make a choice at all, right? It's just
Oh,
happened.
there's a book that I was reading, You're Not as Smart as You Think, where basically like most of our decisions are dictated by stuff that we don't even realize. They're all subconscious things that we don't even realize. And yeah, crazy.
Yeah. But I think that's it, right? It's like there's so little we do know, but we also have a wealth of experience and we also have a wealth of information for like how to live as the best we can, right? And like so we do have some information I think that's valid. And I think the more we do take that control and listen to our judgment, the better things do get clearly. Because I mean, at least anecdotally, I've experienced that. I know you have. So I mean that's
Hmm
something, right?
hmm
It's not a case study, but it's something.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like I think initially in the beginning you have to just trust. Like there's unfortunately in the beginning you just have to take the first
Yeah.
step. There's really no other way around, and that's where a lot of people get caught, is that maybe they don't trust themselves or they're afraid to trust themselves because maybe they did and something didn't work out. And sometimes you just got to trust again and be like, okay, here we go again. Because then if you never do that, then you never have a chance.
Well, you'll never build that confidence, right? To even listen to yourself. I think too, to your point too, another good thing too is just to like just turn away. If that's all you can do, just turn away from it. Like if you feel yourself getting emotional or if you feel yourself like chasing something, just turn away and stop. If anything, that's like one way to listen to yourself that doesn't require very much. You're not making you're just stopping yourself. That's it. And just give yourself like 5 minutes or something, or go somewhere else and see then if you still feel the same need or the same way. and then go from there, you know. But at least that way it's a way to start kind of training yourself to listen to yourself a little bit.
Mm, good advice. Anything else you want to add to this topic of how to trust yourself? Yeah,
It's
I'm
hard
good.
and takes time.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's I think we nailed it in the beginning where it's like the times when you most need it are the times when it's like least there.
Yeah, it's just,
So
dude, it's like it goes out the window. It's like, it's
like
so funny.
never
It's like you,
never even made an imprint. It's like never even existed. And then later on you're like, "Oh, I knew that." Like what were they
dude,
doing?
I feel like it's like I have a backpack of all this stuff that I carry around, and every time I need it, I lose it. You know, it's like that's when I can't find it.
That's pretty. That's a really good explanation because that's yeah. You go look at you're like
Or some
where
crappy,
is that?
some crappy Batman who always forgets his like utility belt.
Ah, darn it! I left it at home.
I guess I'll get away.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think we nailed it. So just act like a master. Don't hold it against yourself when you don't have this stuff. Cool.
That's a good way to live.
Yeah. So that's all for this episode of the Existential Stoic podcast. How to trust yourself. How to trust your judgment. Uh, Make sure to check us out on YouTube podcasting services. We have our 200th episode coming up next week. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, man.